NIV version I'm reading. You can follow along from whatever version you have this morning. It says, the wife of a man from the company of the prophets cried out to Elisha, your servant, my husband, is dead. You can turn me down just a little bit. And you know that he revered the Lord. But now his creditor is coming to take my 2 boys as his slaves. Verse 2. Elijah replied to her, how can I help you? Tell me, what do you have in your house? Look at somebody and say, what do you have in your house? Your servant has nothing there at all, she said, except a little oil. In verse 3, Elijah said, go around and ask all your neighbors for empty jars. And don't just ask for a few. Look at somebody and say, don't just ask for a few. Lord have mercy. Then go inside and shut the door behind you and your sons. And pour oil into all the jars. As each is filled, put it to the one side. She left him and afterwards shut the door behind her and her sons. And they brought the jars to her, and she kept pouring. And when all the jars were full, she said to her son, bring me another one. But he replied, there is not a jar left. Then the oil stopped flowing. Verse 7, she went and told the man of God, and he said, go sell the oil and pay your debts. You and your sons can live on what is left. I want to use for a subject this morning, you can live on what's left. You can live on what's left. Be seated, be seated. Maybe somebody said you can live on what's left. In 2007 through 2008, we experienced a global financial crisis. And through a series of events, this financial crisis led to massive bailouts of financial institutions relating to assisting individuals with mortgage loans and financial advancement. And many around the country were affected and even devastated by this. It eventually led to what was known as the Great Recession. And for many, this crisis was extremely detrimental because within a year's time, people lost the things they had worked their entire lives for. And they were now left to figure out, how do I survive? Not only how do I survive, but how do I survive with little to nothing? Can you imagine working for your home and your job and your car and making a comfortable life for yourself, only within a short period of time you lose everything and you are left to determine, how do I survive with little to nothing? Many were left unemployed, unable to pay their bills, and several even lost their homes. And I believe you will agree with me today that it is extremely unnerving when you have a plan, when you have a system, when things are flowing, and all of a sudden the rug is pulled out from underneath of you. You are then left to figure out, how do I survive on what is left? Furthermore, it is difficult to be creative, to think clearly, and to strategize your plan for survival when you are at the same time being depleted, by God, of your resources and up against the clock. I can figure it out when I have a little time. When I know I got a little something in the bank to sustain me while I'm trying to figure out what am I going to do next. But what do you do when everything is depleted all at the same time? It's hard to be creative. It's hard to think clearly. It's hard to strategize and to plan your survival when you are depleted and you are up against the clock. What do you do when the time has run out and your back is against the wall and you need a resolution immediately? Who am I talking to today? You need something to happen immediately. I don't have next week. I don't have next month. I need something to happen right now. And what do you do when the unexpected happens and suddenly you are literally in a fight for your life? But in dealing with such a crisis, there is a joy for the people of God because we understand that we serve a God who always, some kind of way, provides for us. Who am I talking to today? And no matter what we go through, He always leaves us something to help us make it through. When you are faithful in sowing and serving God and you are obedient to his will, I don't care how low it gets, how severe it may be, it may seem like it's going down, but some kind of way, in the nick of time, God always makes a way. Look at somebody say, he always makes a way. He'll let you find money in an old account. He'll let somebody come by and bless you. He'll open up an opportunity for you, because God always takes care of those who follow him and are obedient to his will. And he will cause us to survive beyond what the economy says, beyond what the bank account says, beyond what the resources say. He has a way of getting in our situation and stretching what we have so we don't look like the struggle we are really dealing with. Look at somebody and say, God always has a way. He always has a way. He always has a way. And somebody this afternoon understands what I'm saying, because you have seen God take your little and make much out of it. You have seen him stretch $20 for the week. You have seen him stretch gas in the car. You have seen the mortgage people not come and take your house. Look at somebody say, some kind of way. Wait a minute. He always makes a way. He always makes a way. I've seen him do it over and over again. He always makes a way. Always. He will some kind of way find a means to provide for those who are obedient and faithful to his will. Yep. And that is why it is an indictment for us as the people of God to worry and to fear. Listen. Especially in our times of lack. If you really want to tell the degree of somebody's faith, let them get an eviction notice on the door and watch how they act. Let that tow truck pull up and repossess that car and watch how they react. If you ever want to test somebody's faith, let them get their back up against the wall and watch how they react. But tell somebody, this is the season where I cannot worry. Cannot worry. And so it is an indictment for us to claim faith and to be sons and daughters, and yet we fear in the time of crisis. And when you serve God, you have to understand that he will release to you what you need just in time. And that not only will he release it, but we have the ability to ask. Because somebody say, all you have to do is ask. God have mercy. He said in John 14, he says, and I will do whatever you ask in my name, so that the Son may bring glory to the Father. You may ask me for anything in my name, and I will do it. But what we must understand is that this is just not a free-for-all scripture. This scripture is not just talking to anybody, and we're leading a lot of people astray thinking that just anybody can ask and receive. No, this is for the faithful. Lord have mercy. This is for the obedient. This is for those that are faithful in ministry and faithful and leading a life and living a life that is pleasing unto God. You can't just live any kind of way and just ask for anything. Well, I know we don't like that type of talking. You can't just be inconsistent and not be faithful and think that you can just ask God for anything. And we got a lot of people blaming God for not doing it, but it's according to your faithfulness. Look at somebody say, it's according to your faithfulness. If it's not happening, it's not because he can't do it. Lord have mercy. If it's not happening, it's not that he won't, but it's going to be according to your obedience and your faith. You have to live some type of holiness. So he says, for those, you can ask anything in my name, and it will be done. So this scripture is speaking to the faithful and the obedient. Faith and faithfulness are the foundation to petitioning God for what we need. I'm going to say that again. Faith and faithfulness are the foundation to petitioning God for what we need. Because it is not just enough to ask, but we must ask and believe. Let me say that again. You have to ask and believe that when I ask, it shall be done. Not I think, not I hope, not I wish. No, look at somebody say, when I ask, it shall be done. The Bible says you can command a blessing. And this is the season where we have to command what it is that we need. So faith and faithfulness are the foundation to petitioning God for what we need. And what you are required to do may not seem logical. So when you ask, you must be obedient. Because oftentimes when you are asked, you will be asked. Let me say it again. Oftentimes when you ask, you will be asked to do something. I know you think it's just going to fall out the sky and just poof, there it is. No. When you ask of God, you may be asked to do something. And sometimes what you are asked to do does not make sense based upon your situation. Lord have mercy. Sometimes what you are asked to do doesn't seem logical based upon what you are going through. And we have a lot of people who are missing out on blessings because we are trying to analyze the instructions that God has given us to get the very thing that we are asking for. It may not seem right. It may not seem like it's something you should be doing, but his ways are not our ways, Lord, and his thoughts are not our thoughts. So sometimes you will be asked to do something that does not line up with your situation. You will be asked to do something that does not line up with your situation. This is where we find the widow in 2 Kings 4. Her husband Obadiah has died, and prior to his death, she was used to living a certain type of life. Anybody say, I like to live a certain kind of way. I like to have certain things. I like to eat certain things I want to eat and dress the way I want to dress. So this woman had been accustomed to living a certain type of lifestyle. But now he has died, and everything that she once knew is removed, and she is left to figure out, how do I survive on what is left? In this time, according to the Hebrew law, when you owed a debt or when you had a collector that was coming, if you could not pay for that debt financially or with goods, you would be sold into slavery. There wasn't a 1-800 number and set up a payment arrangement and pay a little payment here and a little payment there. No, if you did not have it by law, they could sell you and your children into slavery. So it would have been an indictment and very sad for this woman to not only have lost her husband to death, but to now lose her children to slavery because she cannot pay for the debt. Well, look at somebody and say, you got to survive on what is left. Lord have mercy. It would have been devastating for her. Now I know you might be saying, well, why didn't she have a job of her own? Now at this time, I don't believe Destiny's Child had come out with Independent Woman yet. So she didn't really know about getting her own and working for herself and having her own. Everything she had relied on her husband to provide. And now that he is dead, she is left to figure out, how do I survive on what is left? Look at somebody say, how do I survive on what is left? So she didn't know about having her own. The only thing, Lord have mercy, she had working for her and working in her favor is that her husband served the Lord. My God. Obadiah was the son of a prophet, and he revered the things of God. I know you think that in this season it's going to be your skill that gets you what you need. It's going to be your good looks and your charm. But there's going to come a time in your life, if you live long enough, that everything else will pass away, and all you will have to rely on is your relationship with God. Look at somebody say, get your relationship right. There's going to come a time when everything that you think is working for you is going to pass away, and your situation and your livelihood is going to be left up to your relationship with God. Your relationship with God means everything. And it's going to be your obedience and your connection and your reverence for God that is going to make the way, because God will always take care of his, and he will always bless the faithful. Look at somebody say, he always blesses the faithful. And I don't know about you, but I am in the place in my life, Minister Little, where everything else is suspect. Right. Everything else has the possibility to pass away. Come on, sir. Everything else has the possibility to be temporal. Friends can move away. Jobs and opportunities can move away. Finances, houses, and homes. But the one thing that I know for sure that will never fade is my relationship with the Father. And when I can't depend on anything else, I can always count on God. Look at somebody say, I can always count on God. So you must invest in the thing that will always be a surety. Yeah, that's good. Let's always invest in the thing that will be a surety. So this is where the widow finds herself. And she recognizes that she has to do something to survive and to avoid her sons becoming slaves. So God sends Elijah to help her. And she says to Elisha, my husband is dead, and the creditor is coming to take my boys. Now, Elijah knew of Obadiah, and he knew that he had a reputation for godliness. I want to tell you this morning that your reputation is imperative. Oh, let's talk in there. Your reputation means everything. Because when people know that you stand for something and have a standard of living and a standard of serving God, they won't have a problem helping you. Lord have mercy. But some people will never get help because their reputation is tarnished. Oh God, they're mean-spirited, they're unreliable, they're backbiting, they're inconsistent. But in this season, a good reputation is going to grant you favor. Tell somebody, in this season, a good reputation is going to grant you favor. It's not going to be your skill, it's not going to be your good looks, it's not going to be your money, but it's going to all be contingent upon your reputation. What do you stand for and what are people saying about you? Proverbs 22:1, it says a good name is more desirable than riches. And I know we say we don't care about what people think about us, but it's a fool that says that. Right. Oh yes, I'm talking to you. I said, I know we say we don't care what people think about us, but it is a fool that says that. You better care what people say, because you never know when you're going to need that very person. You don't know when you're going to need the very person who you act any kind of way with and who you talk about and who you're ignorant and look over. Someday you're going to need that person. Look at somebody and say, you better care. So your reputation means everything. It is the beliefs or the opinions held about you by others based upon, watch this, your actions. See, everything people think about you is just not something they surmise. It's not because they're hating on you. Some of the things that people think about you have been based upon your actions. Oh, I'm talking to you this morning. Yes. Some of the things that people, and the reason people don't want to help us and don't want to gravitate and be close to us is because of our actions. And watch this. Sometimes it's the actions that we didn't know they saw. Oh, come on here. So sometimes it's the thing that you didn't think they heard you say. Sometimes it's the status watching that you didn't think they saw. Look at somebody say, somebody's always watching. So you have to be very careful about your reputation. Doesn't matter how skilled you are. I in business will utilize somebody whose skills are subpar but has a good reputation. I will gravitate to somebody who is still learning and may not be advanced, but they have a good reputation. So your reputation means everything. So Elisha knows of Obadiah, and Elisha also followed in the footsteps of his mentor Elijah in the way that he had a passion for helping families. So he sees a need. He recognizes her disparity and he decides to help her. But notice that as we read through those scriptures, Elisha did not just give her the money to pay the debts. He didn't just say, here's enough just for you to get the debt. Rather, he helps her recognize the value and the power of what she has left to help herself. This is the season where you got to learn to help yourself. Lord have mercy. See, a true friend won't just bail you out. See, I know you get upset because you think they're just supposed to give you the money. But a true friend will say, no, let's look at the resources you have and let's figure out a way for you to use what you already have to help yourself. Look at somebody say, this time you got to help yourself. I don't mind being there to walk you through the process, but I can no longer just enable you by giving it to you. I want to be the friend that's going to help you to help yourself, because there's always something left that can help you get through the journey. A true friend will come alongside of you and will work the resources. You all get upset when people won't just enable you and not make you do the work. Lord have mercy. How many people have we gotten upset with because they wanted to make us do the work to help ourselves? There's something you got to do to help yourself. And when you understand that you can utilize what is left in your resources, you won't just be able to make it through the day, the week, or the month, but you will have the mentality to make it through a lifetime. Look at somebody say, I'm tired of just making it just week to week and month to month. No, I want the type of mentality where I can survive forever. Oh, Lord have mercy. The Bible says that he will give you the ability to produce revenue. So I want the ability to help myself. And those are the type of friends that we have to surround ourselves with. So Elijah helps her to help herself. He gives her instructions, and the first thing he says is, tell me what you have in your house. Look deep down in somebody's eyes and say, what's in that house? Come on, look at somebody, look at them and say, what's in that house? Let me see what you got left in that house. Is that house full of lies and bitterness and anger and bad choice? What's it? Come on, look in the eyes and say, what's in that house? Is that house full of deceit and bitterness? Come on, he says, tell me what you have in your house. And some of us are afraid to look in the house because we have filled the house with everything but things that can be used. Some of us are, well, I can't say that. We're full of something. Okay. We're full of the wrong things. But he says, tell me what you have in your house. Watch this. Because God often works a miracle with what we already have. I said God often works a miracle with what, see, you looking for it to come from East Jabip and looking for some foreign man to come out. No, God will often work a miracle with what you got right here on Broad Street. He will work a miracle with what you already have in the house. The issue is we underestimate the value of what we already have. We underestimate the value of what we already have inside of us. We will look at it and say, well, all I have is this. Well, I don't really have much, I just have. And we underestimate the very thing that God wants to use to work a miracle in our, it's the very thing that you look over, preaching here, that God is going to use to produce a miracle in your life. Look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, it's not going to come how you think it's coming. It's going to come from that one thing that's always been around you. It's been sitting there the whole time. Hey! And some of you would be free and would have been free a long time ago if you realize that what you need has been around you the whole entire time. Look at somebody say, it's already in the house. Look at somebody say, it's already in the house. It's already in the house. It's already in the house. We underestimate the value of what is left. We underestimate the value of what is left. But can I tell somebody that this next blessing, this next miracle is going to be a lot easier because it's going to come from what you already have. Yes, Lord. Thank you, Lord. And we must position our minds to take evaluation of what we already have in the house. It's not that other resources don't want to assist you, because some of you are saying, I don't realize why I can't get over this hump. Everywhere I go, it seems like I'm getting a no here. It seems like this person who used to help me won't help you anymore. That's because God is trying to help you realize that what you need, you already have. It's already inside the house. And oftentimes we can experience so much loss that we begin to diminish what is already there. But can I tell you that no matter how much loss you have experienced, you ought to take a moment to thank God for what he left in the house. I know I lost a lot, and I know I don't have as much as I used to have, but I'm grateful that he left something. Lord have mercy in the house. I'm grateful there's still something that can be used. Look at somebody say, he still left me something. Woo! You just got to learn how to work what's already in the house. Lord have mercy. You got to work what's already in the house. So Elijah says, he says, tell me what you have in your house. Is it good so far? And the woman says, I have nothing there at all except. Now how much sense does that make? She says, I have nothing there at all except I have a little bit of oil. So she underestimates the value of the oil. That'll preach all by itself. She underestimates the value of the oil because she is looking at it from a natural perspective. See, some of your resources, if you look at them in the natural, they don't mean much. But if you can get in the spirit, God will show you how to work that thing and take care of you for the rest of your life. I I know you think the Spirit is just good for speaking in tongues, but the Spirit will show you how to make much out of nothing. God have mercy. That's how you know, overseer, that the old church mothers, they had to have the Spirit. Because they can make peanut butter and jelly last for 3 weeks. They can make food last. Y'all think y'all want to get deep on me. Okay. The Spirit works more for falling out and speaking in tongues. It will help you understand how to take a resource and how to stretch it and how to grow it and how to produce it. Look at somebody said, you got to get in the Spirit. Let me tell you how I know, because there are things in business that I've done that I know that in the hands of somebody else, it would have never produced the way it did. But because the Spirit would give me ideas and show me where to go and who to talk to and how to grow it, it was a blessing, and it's sustaining me even today. You have got to get in the Spirit. You got to look at your resources and say, now wait a minute, in the natural that doesn't look like much. But in the Spirit, I can see how I can maneuver that. Y'all hear what I'm saying to you today? You got to utilize the Spirit to say, God, show me this in a different way. Show me this in a different way. So she underestimates the value of the oil. Look at somebody say, a little oil can go a long way. She says, I have nothing except a little oil. And many of you are underestimating the power of your oil.
My God.
Many of you don't understand the power of the oil that is on your life. Oftentimes we think the only ones that have oil are those who are preaching and prophesying and behind the mic. But every single one of you, has oil on your life. And if you could understand the power of the oil that's on your life, and although you may have lost a lot, He has preserved enough oil in you for you to start again. The oil is significant of anointing. Anytime you see oil in the Bible, it was used to anoint. It was used to bless. It was even used to cure and to heal. And I want to tell somebody today that that oil is significant of your anointing, because you are anointed to survive. God have mercy. You have been anointed to survive. You have been anointed to bounce back. You have been anointed to recover. And as long as you have oil in your house, you can make it through anything. Touch my, as long as I have oil in my house, I can make it through anything. And that is why we come to an atmosphere like this, because when we come to the house of God and when we receive the word, we store up oil. We are storing up oil sitting here right now. And as long as I have oil in the house, I can make it through anything. So he said to her, he says, I'm not concerned with the fact that you only have a little bit of oil. He says, I'm not concerned that you only have a little bit left. He says, because I realize that this is an opportunity for God to work a miracle. And in your life, you can look at your little, and you have to be able to say, this is an opportunity for God to work a miracle. Sometimes we got to put God to test. He said, prove me which saith the Lord. Will I not open a window? And so we have to change our mindset as it relates to our circumstance. Because the first thing that we do is complain about what we don't have. But you got to look at your little and say, this is an opportunity for God to work a miracle. He says there, he says, I'm not concerned that you don't have a lot of oil, but what I want you to do is, I want you to go and ask your neighbors for empty jars. And he says, don't just ask for a few. He says, I want you to leave your house, and I want you to ask your neighbors for jars. Here's what I want to say there. Some of us have to get delivered from being afraid to ask. Let me say that again. Yeah, let it get quiet. Let it get. Some of us have to get delivered from being afraid to ask. Don't let your pride cause you to miss out on the greatest blessing of your life. That pride is a demon, I'm telling you. Because pride will cause you to keep your mouth shut knowing you're hungry. Knowing you don't know how the lights are going to step. Pride will cause you to live a miserable life because of what you don't want people to know. Look at somebody say, get delivered from being afraid to ask. He didn't tell her, he didn't say, well, pray and the Lord will send jars to your house. He said, no, get your nappy head tail up, go next door, knock on the door, and say, I need some dollars. Look at somebody and say, put some lip gloss on, sip your wig, brush your hair, and go ask. Go ask.
That's it.
Because there is somebody that all they are waiting for you to do is just ask. There is somebody who God has assigned, and the only thing you got to do is be humble enough to ask. Because you know you need.
You're preaching something.
But we are afraid to ask.
That's it.
So we will live a miserable life because we are afraid to ask. And we will use excuses like, well, every time I ask, I'm disappointed. Well, that's why I don't like asking. Oh, I'm talking to somebody in here. That's why I don't like asking people for stuff. But look at somebody say, ask and ask again. Hey, glory to God. There is somebody that is waiting to bless you, but you got to open up your black mouth and ask. You got to open up and ask. And some of us are too concerned with pride and holding up a certain facade because we don't want people to see that we're in need. The funny thing is, we can tell you're in need. Oh. We already know you're in need. But you gotta be willing to ask. Because your asking is an act of faith. Because I heard somebody in the spirit say, well, why I gotta ask? If they already see it, why don't they just help me? Because God wants to see if you have a faith enough to believe that when I ask, it's gonna happen. See, we always trying to figure out, why don't they already know I need it? But God is saying, no, I'm not waiting on them, I'm waiting on you. This is a test of your faith. Hey, God have mercy. This is a testing of your faith that at any level, you are willing to ask. Any level you are willing to ask. So we have to get delivered from that spirit of pride that will keep us in want because we don't want people to know we're in lack. So he doesn't say just pray and the delivery man's going to come and here's some jars. No, he says, you got to go out and you got to ask the neighbors. And then he says this, he says, and don't just ask for a few. See, some of us are asking just based upon what we think we can get. Oh, let me press in there. Some of us are not really asking for what we totally need. We are just asking for what we think we can get. But this is the season where I don't care what you say about me, I'm going to ask you for everything that I need. Watch this, because you don't know who has what resource. You don't know who has access to what. You better ask, if it's 10,000 you need, don't ask for 100, don't ask for 1,000. I need 10,000. Come on, look at somebody and say, you got to ask for what you need. You better ask in this season. You better ask somebody. You better ask for what you need. So we have to stop being prideful. Because it is without question that her neighbors would wonder why she needed the jars. They would indeed question. So she understood that I can't worry about pride. I can't worry about what they need to know and what they're going to think. At this point, I'm in such a need.
I'm in a desperate place.
Lord have mercy. That I just got to ask. Have you ever been there? Have you ever been where you said, I can't take another day of this. I just got to humble myself. And does it seem like every time we humble ourselves, some kind of way, God makes a way? Look at somebody and just say, you better ask. When you truly believe in God and when you are obedient to his will and walk by faith, you will do whatever he says. Let me say that again. When you are truly obedient, you will do whatever he says. The woman never questioned why. She didn't say, why I got to do it that way? No, she just went and asked because she understood I am in a desperate time and I got to do whatever it's going to take. So when God gives us instructions, we got to do it just how he says it. We got to go to the dealership with bad credit. Oh, God have mercy. We got to apply for the mortgage with no money. See, I know you wait until everything gets good and looks right, but some things that you ask for, it's not going to make sense. Because if it made sense, what would be the need for him to work a miracle? Oh, let me say that again. Because if it made sense, what would be a need for him to get in it? Lord have mercy. So you got to do whatever He said, go to the dealership, apply for the job without the education. Come on here, somebody. Step out of it. You got to do whatever he said. Shake somebody who looks like they're hungry and say, do whatever he says. You got to do whatever he said. However he says, do it. He doesn't need you to come up with a contingency plan. He doesn't need you to come up with a second option.
Come on.
You got to do whatever he says. And many of us have missed our answer and have missed our breakthrough because we have spent too much time trying to understand the directions. We have spent too much time trying to figure out how is this really going to end. Knowing that God has already spoken to us. You are wasting time on the logic. You are wasting time trying to understand, if this doesn't work, what am I going to do? But if he said it, the Bible that I read says his promises are yea and amen. And he is not a man that he should lie. So you got to do it exactly how he says. So she didn't question. He instructed her, and she goes to the neighbor and she asks for empty jars. Then he says in verse 4, he says, go inside and shut the door behind you and your sons. Because some miracles everybody does not need to see. There are some things that have to be done behind closed doors. Everything doesn't need to be a Facebook status. Everything don't need to be a group text. Some miracles have to be done behind closed doors. Because if they see it, they will try to make sense of it. Y'all missed that. If they see it, they will say, oh, she got that because she knows so-and-so. Oh, she got that because. No, this is the season where it happened just because I believe God. Look at somebody say, some miracles don't need to be seen. There are some miracles where you don't have to see the process, just see the result. You don't need to know how I got here, just know I'm here. You don't need to know how I got the car, just know I got it. You don't need to know how I got the house, just know I got it. Look at somebody say, just know I got it. Hey, God have mercy, just know that I got it. So some miracles have to be done behind closed doors. And the reason that God can't trust some of us with miracles is because we are too busy telling everything that's going on in our life. Some of us have to share everything that happens to us. And God is saying, I can't trust you to let me work the process and you walk the result. Some miracles can only be done behind closed doors. He says in verse 5, she left him and afterwards shut the door behind her and her sons. They brought the jars to her and she kept pouring. Look at somebody say, keep pouring.
Keep pouring. Keep pouring. Keep pouring.
Woo, God, keep giving. Keep going. I know it don't look like it's growing, but keep going. Whole city shall keep going.
Keep going.
Lord, have mercy. He says, keep pouring. And she kept pouring. And when all the jars were full, she said to her son, bring me another one. And he replied, there is not a jar left. Then the oil stopped flowing. As long as you can provide a will, the oil will continue to flow. As long as you're willing to be the jar, the resource, the oil will always continue to flow. And so God works a miracle with the little oil she had left to where the oil filled every jar that they could find. And the oil, which was little, outlasted the container. Ooh. And the oil outlasted the container. And the oil outlasted the container. what you have is going to outlast your need. What you already have is going to increase and outlast the very thing. Get something on your mind that you need right now. The oil outlasted the container. Not only that, but here's where I want to finish. The Bible says that she went back and told Elisha. And it says in verse 4, it says in verse 7, she went and told the man of God, and he said, go sell the oil, play softly, and pay your debts.